the beginning of the service, I talked about all of the different counterpoints that are going on in the world, and I started to talk about laughter. These days don't seem like days to laugh, though. There is pain and sorrow and anger in the world. You know, comedians and social commentators have been using humor during times of pain, sadness, and anger for a long time. Even now, laughing and crying seem like close friends these days. Both hurt a little, and I think both help too. Do you know what else comedy can do? Comedy can make you think. And you can find lots of humor in the Bible. Here's some of it. God really gave the Israelites something to complain about in Numbers 11. So the Israelites got sick of eating manna and only manna for 3 meals a day, so they started complaining and wishing they had meat to eat. Okay, I can't really fault them for wanting something else, since manna apparently tastes like coriander and looks like resin. Kind of destroys the whole manna from heaven idea. But so Moses asked God why he was burdened with all of these whiny people, and they kept complaining about not having meat to eat. And God heard the complaining and says, oh, they want to complain, do they? All right, I'll give them something to complain about. So God says that they will eat meat. Here we go. God says they will eat meat, but not for 1 or 2 days, not for only 1 or 2 days, but for a whole month, until, and here's the quote from the Bible, until it comes out of their nostrils. That's in Numbers 11. Oh, you want meat? I'll give you meat, so you're going to have meat coming out of your nose. Bible, humor. I don't believe that the person who recorded the death of King Jeroham in 2 Chronicles 21, I think he knew what he was doing. It says, he passed away to no one's regret. Humor in the Bible. I think that person didn't lack humor. And how about David in 1 Samuel 21, verses 15 and 16? He pretended to be insane before Achish, the king of Gath, to avoid being returned to Saul. Achish said to his servants, am I so short of madmen that you bring this fellow here? Am I so short that you're bringing someone from the other side? That's funny. Elijah was also fond of sarcasm. Old Testament Elijah. He, in his great contest with the prophets of Baal, over which God could light his own sacrifice, that was a kind of a pretty comical idea in itself, but it saw Elijah mocking them it was 1 Kings 18, with a suggestion that their God, who was not lighting the thing on fire, might be in the lavatory or something, although politer translations tend to obscure that part. But that's funny in the Bible. Elijah trash-talking, it says, perhaps your God has gone aside. But the gist of it is, perhaps he's in the lavatory. With Jesus, he embraced others with a sense of humor. In the beginning of the Gospel of John, now I've talked about this one before, it comes the remarkable story of Nathanael, who had been told by his friends that the Messiah is from Nazareth. And Nathanael said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? It's like, can anyone good come out of that backwoods town? That's a joke about how insignificant the city was. Nathanael's humor didn't bother Jesus because there's a comeback there. In fact, it seemed to delight Jesus. Here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. It seems that he gave sarcasm right back. The offensive thing that he would say, I mean, this is what Jesus, who was Jewish, said. He goes, oh, look, an honest Jew. That's his response to Nathanael after Nathanael said, look at that. So Jesus gave it right back. Well, Nathanael became one of the apostles. Jesus welcomed Nathanael into his circle in a way that is perhaps the clearest indication that he does have a sense of humor, other than the other men. Peter escaped from prison in Act 12. He came to the door of Mary, the mother of John Mark, and when he knocked, the maid Rhoda was so surprised she forgot to let him in and just ran back into the house that say that Peter was out of prison. It's like a ready-made 80s or 90s sitcom moment. Can you imagine some TV show? Someone's like knocking on the door. Hello, that's me, I'm out of prison. Oh goodness, let me run and tell the household. Wait, I'm still here. And then we have humor in today's Bible reading. Sarah heard a conversation with some messengers from God and Abraham. It's funny in an awful way that they wouldn't just speak to Sarah, but that's the Bible time for you. The visitor promised that Sarah would have a son when she was really, really old. And Sarah, like Abraham before her, laughed and said to herself, after I've grown old and my husband is old, shall I have the pleasure? Then God, who's no longer masquerading as a messenger, in the reading you kind of feel that it's not like this easy transition, it just happens just like that, said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I'm old? But then, this comes the crux of the matter. The question on the whole story hinges on this. Is anything too good for the Lord? Yeah. Can God fulfill promises despite the facts on the ground? Sarah and Abraham didn't believe it. But Sarah did respond to the question. Why did Sarah laugh? With, I didn't laugh. And the Lord, with, I imagine, a twinkle in the eye and a wink at the divine absurdity of all of it, said, oh yes, you did laugh. There's no punishment associated with the laughter or anything like that, and Sarah had a baby. Abraham fell on his face in a fit of laughter. Sarah laughed behind the tent door, and I really believe that God laughed with them at this divine, wonderful absurdity of all of it. Given the humor of the scene of the Oaks of Mamre and the comedy of a God who acts in unexpected ways to fulfill God's promises, it's entirely appropriate that the child of the promise should be named Laughter. Isaac means he laughs, so his name was about laughter. So, what could be a challenge from this? There's humor in the Bible. The world is too often an awful place, and sometimes we just have to find humor and laugh a little bit. I don't think that the challenge is to always be cheerful. That's neither realistic nor really good for our system. But it's also not to ignore the enormity of the protests against racism, systemic racial injustice, war in the world. And the challenge really isn't to fight about equality, respect, and love, although all of those things are necessary in our lives. I think that the challenge really is, through all of it, through difficulty in life, through anger at whatever side you're not on whatever issue that is to take a breath for a moment. Take that breath here and there and just laugh. So instead of an amen, which I'm going to say, okay, amen, but I want us to have a good, hearty guffaw for no reason whatsoever. Sit in the pews and let us just laugh. As a matter of fact, I'm going to change my mind. I want us to laugh. But there's a song that I'm going to make us sing, and then we're going to sing the other song there. There's a song called You Can Smile. I should probably have a guitar for it. A song called You Can Smile, but it's also You Can Laugh. But we're gonna do this thing today to just be a little bit absurd, a little bit silly. Yep, it's tuned up. So the song is called You Can Smile, and it goes like this. You can smile when you can't say a word. You can smile when you cannot be heard. You can smile when it's cloudy or fair. You can smile anytime, anywhere. I got the little extra R there. So we're going to sing that now together, except when we get to the word smile, don't sing the word smile. Turn to somebody here in the sanctuary and smile at them. It's possible, because there's a lot of people here, that when you turn to someone and smile, they'll be turned to somebody else. You just smile anyway, they'll feel it burning right through the back of their head. You ready? Well, you can. When you can't say a word, you can. When you cannot be heard, you can. When it's cloudy or fair, you can. Anytime, anywhere. And you can laugh. When you can't say a word, you can laugh. When you cannot be heard, you can laugh. When it's cloudy or fair, you can laugh anytime, anywhere. Some of you got the idea about what comes next, and you forgot that we were singing the rest of the song, which is pretty cool. So if you want to laugh all the way through the verse again, that's okay. Or if you want to follow kind of like the laugh protocol of the song, laugh with sort of, you can, ha, 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 get a good rhythm going on your laugh. But either way, it works. You ready? Well, you can, ha, 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 ha. When you can't say a word, you can, ha, 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 ha. When you cannot be heard, you can, ha, 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 ha. When it's cloudy or fair, you can, ha, ha, anytime, anywhere. And now all God's people said, amen.